Eliza, Clark, has now spent so much time around the Grounders, lived amongst the Grounders. Just how much, has she, maybe she hasn't, although she has obviously taken on some of their physical characteristics and clothing, how much does she feel comfortable with them now versus, her people with the Ark?
Well, let me tell you, the clothing is not comfortable.
No.
I think she feels very comfortable. I mean, especially through Lexa, she feels like she's a part of them and wants to protect them as much as she wants to protect the Sky Crew. We are a crew now. That's the thing. We're the 13th clan. I mean, the Ice Nation. We'll work on that, but they don't really like that very much. But I think that it's been a crazy transformation in season 3 for Clark. Just kind of understanding the ways of the Grounders and wanting to amalgamate our worlds for good, for the good of the human race, and especially now with this new threat, I think it's more important now more than ever.
Mm-hmm. And Ian, you mentioned the fact that Kane is a leader, which he definitely is, and a very natural one, and seems to be a very skilled one. But he's often, last season he kind of didn't want to just take that role on, which ended up kind of backfiring on him with Pike. But he also is, at times, as I look back at season 2, he kind of acquiesced a bit more to Clark as a leader when Abby wasn't really ready for that. How does he feel about, Clark and the fact that she's sort of risen up as this leader figure almost alongside him at some points?
I think I didn't give it up to Pike. I think foolishly I thought that I would win the election, and I lost. And I blame Bellamy. And so how do I feel? Well, we'll see. Now there's a void in leadership, certainly in Polis, and there's no elected chancellor. So I think Episode 1 will answer that question because we need to fill that void very quickly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think just to chip in on that for a second, Eliza Clark this season sort of owns her power. She's earned it. She's saved the world last year. She's done enough.
I pulled a few levers.
You've pulled a few levers, for sure. One too many, maybe. But yeah, so I think Kane and Abby as well recognize that. Like they recognize that they're dealing with someone special, and it's her time. It's her time to do it again, really.
Yeah. And I think it's about time that we spoiled something for everyone. It turns out that Kane is my dad. Sorry. All right. That's it.
That's kind of interesting. Because in the first episode, season 1, I was meant to be somebody's father. But then
it still might be you.
Somebody else's father in the script. I don't know if Jason ever made that public. Did you ever make that?
No.
I don't know if we ever.
Can we tell them?
What?
Yes, it's not true, but yes, it's true that it was supposed to happen, but it's not the case. He's not her father.
I'm no longer.
Right.
Is that confirmed?
Oh.
But you can say. Did you say?
No, because I was supposed to be Marie's dad.
Yeah.
And all the way, and I was all the way through, and I said I should be Bob's dad.
The story. Here's the
Bob or Bob's dad, right? Wait a minute.
Bob and Ian call each other son and dad like every day on set. By the way,
in season 2, we started messing around, and I said I'm going to play it like I'm your dad, and then he went, "Okay, Dad." I went, "Okay, son."
There's that scene in the pilot where you're looking at the iPod or the thing.
That's right.
Yeah. Bellamy Blake.
Octavia's face was on it, and you were looking at it longingly a little bit, right? And then in walks Cece, the vanished girlfriend of Kane's, and it felt a little like you were looking at a girlfriend while your other girlfriend.
I see, right. It was a bit creepy. I get it.
Yeah.
Wait, Octavia, the daughter, is your girlfriend?
It looks like
how many
really
confused all of our dads?
It's a whole 100 alternate reality going on here. What?
100 / Jerry Springer.
Well, Marie, let me ask about the fact that Octavia has clearly tried, she's had such a struggle to fit in, and she thought it was with the Grounders, and that didn't work, and she ended up back with her people, but never really comfortable. Is that feeling more extreme than ever now, given everything that's happened?
Yeah, I think she felt like her home was with the Grounders, and then she just felt like her home was wherever Lincoln was. And then it's been throughout that loss and her self-discovery in the past 2 seasons on who she is and what she does to fit in. Indra's really helped her hone in on, home is in here in your heart. So she's really sort of figured out who she is in that department, and again, and what she's good at. She was like, well, Raven's the mechanic and Clark's the doctor. What am I? Who am I? And she really found her home within herself and becoming a warrior, and that's thanks to Lincoln and Indra, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I like on this show, there's such a big cast. So sometimes we don't really see characters interact together, and then suddenly you do, and it's like, oh, this is interesting. So, Lindsay, I'm curious, last season, for instance, Raven and Jaha had some notable scenes together, which was kind of the first time. Is that fun for you, just as far as you work with these people, but sometimes you don't directly work with them, and then you get to bounce off that different energy?
Oh, definitely. I think it's anytime we get to work with each other or anyone that we haven't, been working with a lot each other in other storylines, it's exciting. It's like you get a new friend to play with. I mean, Isaiah is amazing, and he taught me so much just seeing the way he works and being exposed to his process. So I really enjoyed it, and I love that we have a big cast. So it's always a constant door of fresh faces and fresh ideas and fresh art. So it's very exciting.
Mm-hmm. Similarly, Chris, for you, it's, Monty and Jasper. That was the duo for the first couple years. And then in season 3, you guys were separated, from each other for a lot of that. As much as people love that pairing, was it also cool for you to have the Monty and Raven scenes, and of course the Harper and Monty scenes?
That's a great question, Eric.
Thank you, Chris.
While I have you all here, quick show of hands. Who's a fan of the Monty Harper connection? And who's
the first 3 rows?
Who's disgusted by it? Whose stomach just turned thinking about it?
What?
2 people.
You.
Get out.
And who's forget Harper, it's Miller time. That's what I thought. Okay, back to the question. Yes, I was asked this a lot earlier about working with Lindsay specifically, because I don't think we'd had 2 scenes together beforehand, and so
I told you your mom was dead.
Yeah.
Give it up.
that, and so this at the end of the season, we had the scene where I had to do Mom Death number 2, and I was feeling very nervous about it because it was probably the biggest challenge for me in season 3, and so I was so grateful to have Lindsay by my side, because to have someone that you trust and is so invested, new faces, it forces you to up your game and create yourself in a new way. It's those are some of my favorite scenes of season 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I want to ask quickly, Jason, about Jasper, just because in the finale he came back out of the City of Light, and there was a nice touching scene with him and Monty, but a lot of people wondered where his head was at as he walked out of that room, and just how dark things could have gone.
Yeah, that scene, actually, I wrote, this is, there's been a little bit of talk about this, so I might as well just admit to the original ending of the finale.
Ooh, okay.
Spoiler.
Which was, Jasper comes out of the City of Light and leaves that room and goes and blows his brains out. But it was too dark even for me. I lived with that scene in post. By the way, I have to say, brilliant scene. The boys crushed it. Jasper was amazing.
Devin was unreal in that scene.
Oh, my God.
Unparalleled.
Chris was so good. You were so good in that scene. I don't think anybody will ever see that scene. But it was really just a horrible way to leave what was a really dark season. And I just felt it was not the right ending. Plus, I felt there was more in the tank for Jasper in terms of...
And we love Devin so much that, how could we let him go, really?
Yeah, and we're going to really, that's the truth. It just was something that in my gut, didn't feel right about it, and so I cut it, and we found the better ending. So.
Plus, every couple of years, Devin gets unkilled on the show.
He does.
He's unkillable.
It's his annual thing.
Right. Meanwhile, though, Richard, it seems like, to me, Murphy is like the most adaptable character on this show. It's like, you wouldn't think that initially, but then it turns out like every situation, every character he gets thrown into, he somehow manages to make it work.
Well, he's a smart guy, man. You guys don't give him enough credit. Just because he spelled die wrong like once doesn't mean he's a dumb guy. He just didn't go to school properly. That's just the system, though. Yeah, no, he's an absolutely adaptable guy. I mean, his track record shows it. He's a survivor, as we've always said, and as Lindsay just whispered to me, a cockroach. Thank you. I'm glad to know what you think of me.
A lovable cockroach.
My favorite.
Everyone's favorite cockroach. Yeah, but you can't get him. That's not a challenge, Jason. It's not a challenge.
Well, what I think is interesting about where you are now is that you are a part of the group. Like you,
which is great.
Which is very,
for like the first time ever.
You kept Clark alive while she was
I
in the City of
actually
Light.
thanked you for once.
Yeah, I didn't know how to
First
take
time
that.
ever.
That was weird for me.
It felt weird, but it was cool.
All right, nerd.
how long
Get away
that
from me. You.
Okay, you can sit at the cool kids table, basically.
Oh, that's exciting. It's kind of nice to actually be part of the group and kind of see how that might work out. Because you guys, I feel like you owe me a little bit, just a tiny bit.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I feel like me and you are square now, though, right?
We're even.
We're good.
Even Steven.
We're good.
I don't think so.
Never mind.
More debt to be paid. So let me ask Jason about the season finale, and obviously we got to see Lexa again in that finale in the City of Light, and very cool sort of return moment, and some big action stuff there. There was a lot going on there as far as the flame and the City of Light. The City of Light is gone now. The flame still exists. So is that accessible again? Is the City of Light accessible? Is Lexa and the other commanders?
I would actually really like to know this.
Prior to her?
Well, the City of Light is gone, for sure. Allie's gone. The flame exists, of course, and all the minds of the commanders are in the flames. The finale was designed really from day one. We knew Clark was going to take the flame. We didn't know the details of it, but we knew Clark was going to go into the City of Light. She was going to need her friends in the real world to keep her alive long enough to take out Allie, and she was going to need help on the inside, too, and that meant Lexa. So we always knew Lexa was coming back in the finale. We always knew there was going to be this triumphant, romantic, emotional moment. And it was designed both to be that return for that character and a finale. So Lexa's not coming back to the show. She won't be in season 4. But ultimately, the flame is an important thing. We realize that the flame is a political artifact as well. Whoever holds the flame in lieu of a Nightblood, before it can be put into a Nightblood, has power. And we'll see it play itself out that way this season in a very different storyline.
Because there's still no true commander. I mean, there was one, but after some really weird heart massaging, she's gone.
Yeah, no, Clark is not the commander. She's not Haida.
No.
There is no commander, and there are no Nightbloods that want it that we know of. Right? So, but there will be Nightblood scouts. Titus had scouts out in the world, and we will see one of them and meet one of them, and it'll be an interesting thing for her, that character, when she shows up, in terms of how she's going to deal with what happened with the flame and who has the flame, and what is left of her religion, of her spirituality.
But as an aside, Richard, was that one of the weirdest scenes you ever shot? The reaching into someone's chest to hold their heart?
I'm going to cut you off there easily. Off of that, it was just very sticky, and it felt like keep in mind I don't actually know what a real heart feels like, so I was about to say it felt like a real heart, but there's no
And she
way.
was playing crossword, wasn't she? In between takes?
Yeah. Rhiannon in between takes was just like doing crossword puzzles.
I know, poor thing. That day was hard for her.
Yeah. She was honestly, I gotta say that though, she was a trooper through all of that. She never complained once. She was just laying at a table for days, because that whole sequence, that final sequence, was such a laboring thing to shoot. It's such a big task.
That was a huge day.
It was. I mean, turned out though.
Eliza, I do want to ask, Clark, obviously everyone's gone through a lot of loss in this show, but Clark's sort of history, it's like she lost her father Finn, Lexa, is this, hardened her, or is it just made her even more protective as a person?
Apparently I have the kiss of death. That's what I've heard recently. It's hard. Of course it's hardened her. She'll never be the same. She wasn't the same the second she had to witness her father being executed. And then from that point on, she had to see a lot more and actually execute people herself. So she's hardened, but in a lot of ways, I think, through her relationships with her group, her core group, who are here now, and with Lexa, and she has found camaraderie and doesn't feel quite as alone as she once did, which is a positive thing.